analysis should identify that it's happening there, and the trend, if it's going to continue happening, expand, or whatever. So that's your benchmark. And if with the plan that use is no longer an allowed use, then that's a negative socioeconomic impact. So the work that we're doing here is leading towards one of the things that it enables the future assessment of what are the impacts of the plan. Not something we're getting into at this, but that's laying the framework for one of those possible uses. Oh, okay. Could you hear me back there, or do you want me to start over? Okay. Okay. You don't want to hear me? Okay, the three pilot projects have addressed to varying degrees the first three steps, scoping to the base case outlook. And the other values, which are not highlighted, and the community and cultural, they are at the scoping stage. And the scoping stage examines the issues and the linkages to the proposed project to help identify what information to be included in the baseline. Okay, and also this figure doesn't address the planning process, as I've said, and how the socioeconomic and ecological aspects are going to be integrated in the plan. So the challenge with doing this work is identifying the relevant information. And it must be recognized that Pensima covers a large area, and that it's highly diverse and dynamic in its socio-economic and cultural characteristics. To fully describe all aspects is well beyond the limits of this study, and would probably overwhelm the planning process. I think some would say that the pilot studies that you have in your hand are already too long. So in the scoping, how do we determine what information is relevant? Well, basically, what is relevant is any socioeconomic value that is expected to be changed because of the integrated plan is implemented in the Pensima, then we want to collect baseline information on that. So this slide sets out two cases. The first case corresponds to where the plan is completed and is well known. And so in that case, you know exactly where you want to go and look for information. But for us, that's not the case. The planning is in the future, and that detail is not known. And as indicated in Neil's slide, the SECOA may also contribute to the development of plan objectives. So knowing what's out there is seen as assisting the planning process. So what we do know about the plan, and what we've used for preparing the pilots that are in your package, what we do know is broadly that the plan will apply to the marine environment. And it may involve restricting uses in particular areas. So there's a spatial dimension to it. And it may lead to reduced conflicts among user groups. So this does help narrow the scope of matters that we would be looking at. So again, this is identifying what is the relevant information that we're looking for. And there's a need to focus on the information that matters to the planning process, even in the collection of the baseline information. This is an idealized graphic identifying the nature of the information that we feel is most pertinent to the planning process, and hence should be included in the SECOA. The finalized plan, as I said, will make changes in the marine environment. Now, the values and issues, so that's kind of clear enough. If we had a plan, we could see what changes it was making. The values and issues are in some ways quite often a little more difficult to separate in your mind, because quite often the value, how you think about it, is through the issues. So a value might be commercial fishing. An issue, it could be stocks that are declining. So that's actually in this slide would be in this area. So they're seen as sort of that combination. So we'll be sorting through this through the workshops, but it's the coincidence of where the plan is working and the issues and the values that are the information that we're looking for to baseline for this SECOA. And it's idealized. I think it's probably a larger area than that, but so I'll take an example. Say the issue is a relatively large number of passengers disembarking from cruise ships. That's the issue. Cruise ships passengers is an aspect in the marine recreation value. So these two clearly overlap. We would be in this area right here. But will the plan contain elements operative through the marine environment that will lead to a marked increase or decrease in the number of cruise ships calling? If we conclude likely not, then this aspect would be set aside, because there would not, the plan would not be intersecting those two circles. That said, we also consider the trend in cruise ship sailing as an aspect of marine transportation, and then we also be examining cruise ship passengers within the context of communities. So nevertheless, what I'm trying to is illustrate the logic of our approach. In practice, the lines are blurry, and we would tend to, rather than drawing a sharp lines around that, we're picking up information that hopefully includes that overlap but goes beyond it. So it would be very helpful for us if you can keep these considerations in mind in the breakout sessions. I don't mean this to be restrictive. We want to be asking the right questions, but clearly we want also to stay focused on the matters that are relevant and contribute to the planning process. So given the identification of the information to be collected, what information are we going to be collecting? And we're going to be addressing these points as we describe each of the values. The first one is current observations, and that's recent trends and current conditions, a factual statement of the level of activity that's occurring in that activity, or how that activity is being expressed in PENSEMA. And the next point is then issues that are related in to how that value is occurring in PENSEMA. And I really prefer the discussions. I've set out how we do the analysis of the information to try to focus down